Hello and welcome to the world of aviation. Today's lecture is on the historical development of air transport systems. And it is my hope that at the end of this lecture, you would have had a basic understanding of how the air transport systems began, how it grew, the challenges that came with the growth, and finally, how the industry responded and continue to respond to address the challenges. I would like to give a very special and warm welcome to a very special group of people, the young aviators. So join me as we look back into history and discover this exciting journey of air transport. Our journey begins in France, and the year is 1783, where the first balloon flight took place. And this was done by two brothers, Joseph Michel and Jacques Etienne. However, due to the lack of propulsion, no practical applications for air travel were realized at that time until the 20th century. The first propelled flight was made in 1903 by the Wright brothers and inaugurated the era of air transportation. The initial transport services were targeted at mails since it was a type of freight that could be easily transported and initially proved to be more profitable than transporting passengers. Nonetheless, the first recorded passenger flight took place on the 14th of May 1908 when a Mr. Charles Furness, flying with Wilbur Wright at Kitty Hawk, became the world's first airplane passenger. And on the 1st January 1914, the first regular scheduled passenger service started in Florida, USA. There are two flights a day across Tampa Bay, carrying one passenger each way. On the 22nd of May 1917, a load of 220 kg of mail was carried from Turin to Rome, Italy, opening the route for airmail and freight transport. By the end of 1920, there were already a number of regular daily international commercial services established. And by the mid-1920s, there were regular scheduled airmail flights from coast to coast. On-night flight pilots were guided by a string of flashing beacons at ground stations along the flight path. Airlines like American, Delta, and the United began to see their operations become profitable. These airlines soon were flying larger monoplanes with enclosed cabins, such as the Ford Trimotor, which carried up to 15 passengers. And by 1929, Britain was operating a commercial air route to India. And within a few years, other nations began combined mail, freight, and passenger service to distant countries and dependencies. The era between 1919 and the outbreak of World War II in 1939 included significant advances in weather forecasting, navigation equipment, aerodynamics, and innovative management. During the same period, there are also tremendous improvements in the design of aircraft. The industry saw the development of monoplanes constructed of metal, carefully streamlined with reliable and efficient radio engines, retractable landing gears, variable pitch propellers, and many other refinements. The industry saw the introduction of the 14-seater, the DC-3, which was manufactured by Douglas Aircraft Company, a propeller monoplane equipment, a state-of-the-art at that time. And in the 1950s, intercontinental air transport became firmly established. New long-range 4-engine aircrafts with fully pressurized cabins and advanced instrumentation were increasingly able to avoid storms and turbulent winds, enhancing passenger safety and comfort and making operations more economical and consistent. These new planes and the jet airliners introduced in the 1958 replaced railroad trains and ocean liners as the primary mode of long-distance travel. A new generation of wide-bodied or jumbo-jet transports began operation in 1970. And the Anglo-French Concorde, a supersonic transport, entered passenger service in 1976. Not to be left back was the air cargo, the development of air cargo. So we see that along with air mail service, which was the main transport in cargo, the shipping of commodities by air began in the 1920s. The air cargo business in the 1930s expanded as larger airliners came into service, but air cargo still lagged far behind passengers and mail as a source of revenue. Nonetheless, for certain categories of compact, lightweight, and high-value items, air transport proved highly useful. Typical air cargo in the pre-World War II era included jewelry, cut flowers, high-fashion clothing, movie reels, pharmaceuticals, and high-priority replacement and repair parts for machinery. And after the World War II, we saw a surge of more efficient and bigger planes getting into the cargo space as they were more profitable. Several all-cargo companies were formed, though most of them have since closed due to financial challenges. All kinds of livestock, zoo animals, perishable produce, frozen foods, heavy machinery, letters, automobile parts, and even complete autos travel in the air cargo. And as the air transport continued to expand, as the industry continues to expand, so did the emergence of ancillary services. So with the expansion of the air transport, airframe and engine maintenance companies came into place. Personnel training, pilots, cabinet attendants, ticket agents, ground crews came into place. Maintenance of computerized reservations came into place. Food preparation and the operation of hotels and resorts worldwide also came into place. Creation of ICAO. So by 1939, almost the entire world was covered by an interconnecting air transport system. There were about 10 world airlines at that time and 19 intercontinental routes. As air traffic grew and more people preferred to travel by air, there was the need to have an orderly, safe, and secure airspace. These changes needed to be managed to spark confidence in the passengers and ensure profitability for the airlines. And so, on November 1944, representatives from 52 nations of states met in Chicago to create a framework for managing the projected growth of global aviation. The 52 nations signed an agreement which is known today as the Chicago Convention. The Chicago Convention established what is today known as the International Civil Aviation Organization, ICAO. At that time, 26 nations ratified the convention. But before ICAO could start functioning, it was necessary to have a committee to midwife the birth of ICAO. And between 1944 and 1947, a provisional organization, PICAO, was formed with the aim of laying down the foundation for a new international organization to be headquartered in Montreal, Canada. What were the objectives of ICAO? As elaborated in the Chicago Convention, ICAO's aims and objectives are to develop the principles and techniques of international air navigation and to foster the planning and development of international air transport so as to ensure the safe and orderly growth of international civil aviation throughout the world, encourage the arts of aircraft design and operation for peaceful purposes, encourage the development of airways, airports, and air navigation facilities for international civil aviation, meet the needs of the peoples of the world for safe, regular, efficient, and economical air transport, prevent economic waste caused by unreasonable competition, ensure that the rights of contracting states are fully respected and that every contracting state has a fair opportunity to operate international airlines, avoid discrimination between contracting states, promote safety of flight in international air navigation, and promote generally the development of all aspects of international civil aeronautics. Standards and recommended practices, SAPs. So in order to achieve its goals, ICAO came up with standards and recommendation practices and summarized them into 18 technical documents that became annexes to the Chicago Convention. Today there are 19. These annexes govern the performance of airline pilots and flight crews, air traffic controllers, ground and maintenance crews, carriage of dangerous goods by commercial aircraft, security requirements and procedure at international airports, meteorological services for international air navigation, aeronautical telecommunications, search and rescue, aircraft accident investigation, aeronautical information services, and environmental protection. Annex 1 is about personnel licensing. Annex 2, rules of the air. Annex 3, meteorological services for international air navigation. Annex 4, aeronautical charts. Annex 5, units of measurement to be used in air and ground operations. Annex 6, operation of aircraft. Annex 7, aircraft nationality and registration marks. Annex 8, airworthiness of aircraft. Annex 9, facilitation. Annex 10, aeronautical telecommunications. Annex 11, air traffic services. Annex 12, search and rescue. Annex 13, aircraft accident and incident investigation. Annex 14, aerodromes. Annex 15, aeronautical information services. Annex 16, environmental protection. Annex 17, security. Annex 18, the safe transport of dangerous goods by air. And of recent, Annex 19, safety management. Now let's look at the historical development of the International Air Transport Association, normally known as IATA. Now, before ICAO was formed, a number of airlines came together to try and regulate the industry and come up with standards and ways of working together. It was important because the industry was growing and there was need to do this. So at its founding, IATA had 57 members from 31 nations, mostly in Europe and North America. Today, it has over 300 members from more than 120 countries in every part of the globe. The modern IATA is a successor to the International Air Traffic Association, which was founded in The Hague in the year 1919, the year of the world's first international scheduled services. The old IATA was able to start small and grow gradually. It was also limited to a European dimension until 1939, when Pan American joined. The post-1945 IATA immediately had to handle worldwide responsibilities with a more systematic organization and a larger infrastructure. So this was reflected in the 1945 Articles of Association and a much more precise definition of IATA's aim than that had existed before 1939. and it was established to promote safe, regular, and economic air transport for the benefit of the peoples of the world, and to foster air commerce, and to study the problems connected herewith. It was also to provide means for collaboration among the air transport enterprises, engage directly or indirectly in the international air transport service. It was also to cooperate with ICAO later on and provide vital input to the work of ICAO on behalf of its members. Now, it is important to take note that before the formation of ICAO, although IATA was trying to regulate itself or the operation of the airlines, it was going to be very difficult to try and implement any regulations or any standards that they came up with to any state. So it was important that IATA works with ICAO to be able to manage the industry. So for this reason, that's why IATA had to cooperate with ICAO and provide vital input to the work of ICAO on behalf of its members. And the members of IATA basically are airlines. So after addressing the issues of technical and the legal framework through ICAO, IATA's next requirement were for who can fly where, what prices are to be charged, how is the money from the multi-airline journey, that is interlining, to be divided, and how do airlines settle their accounts. In the early days, governments insisted on the right to oversee the prices charged by international airlines, but could not, in practical terms, develop those prices for themselves. So IATA was delegated to hold traffic conferences for this purpose, with all fares and rates subject to final government approval. The aim was twofold: ensuring that fares and rates would not involve cutthroat competition, while ensuring that they could be set as low as possible in the interest of consumers. And I would also add, in the interest of the airlines. A coherent pattern of fares and rates pattern was established, avoiding inconsistencies between tariffs affecting neighboring countries, and thereby avoiding traffic diversion. The predictability of fares and rates in this pattern also enabled airlines to accept each other's tickets on multi-sector journeys and thus give birth to interlining. And today, over 10 million passengers travel by air per day and pay for their ticket in one place, in one currency, but complete their journey using at least 2 and sometimes 5 or more airlines from different countries using different currencies. Now, the first worldwide traffic conference was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1947. It reached unanimous agreement on nearly 400 resolutions covering all aspects of air travel. Fare construction rules for multi-sector trips, revenue allocation, prorating rules, baggage allowances, ticket and airway bill, design and agency appointment, procedures were some of the details agreed at this pioneering meeting. Today, that pioneering work is reflected in the currently applicable IATA resolutions, dealing with these resolutions and many other subjects. Notable examples are the multilateral interline traffic agreements. These are the basis for airlines' interline network. Today, over 300 airlines have signed them, accepting each other's tickets and airway bills, and thus their passengers and cargo traffic on a reciprocal basis. Passenger and cargo services conference resolutions. These prescribe a variety of standard formats and technical specifications for tickets and air pay bill. Passenger and cargo agency agreements and sales agency rules. These govern the relationships between IATA, member airlines, and their accredited agents with regard to passenger and cargo. Debt settlement between airlines, largely arising from interlining, takes place through the clearinghouse, which began operations in January 1947. Now, the sad event or the terror attack on Tuesday, the 11th September 2001, and the fast increasing in jet fuel prices around that time, and the rising taxes exposed or showed the economic fragility of several major airlines. As a matter of fact, a number of major airlines either closed or merged with others to be able to stay afloat. So in order to assist the airlines to remain profitable, IATA in 2002 spearheaded an industry agenda with the main aim of enhancing safety and improving efficiency. And IATA came up with two major initiatives to try and assist the industry. The first one was the IATA Operational Safety Audit, IOSA, which was the first global standard for airline operational safety management. And the second initiative was a simplifying the business program, using technology to improve customer convenience while reducing cost. And they did this by introducing electronic ticketing or e-ticketing, barcoded boarding passes, e-freight, and the common use self-service, and radio frequency identification for baggage. I just want to point out that the introduction of the e-ticketing has been very effective, and to date, one can also just buy a ticket online over the internet. And in this, IATA was able to assist its member airlines by cutting out the paper tickets, a lot of paperwork which were there then, saving the airlines a lot of money. But at the same time also the agents, the ticketing agents, had to also reorganize themselves to try and stay afloat, as many people now would no longer go for the paper ticket. And those paper tickets at that time were like money, because you had to spend a lot of money to guard them not to be stolen or to get spoiled. So the introduction of the e-ticketing really helped the airlines to stay afloat. So even as we leave IATA behind, we look at other air organization or players in the air transport system. So let's look at the Civil Aviation Navigation Service Organization. So the Civil Air Navigation Services Organization, also known as Council, was founded in 1996 in the Netherlands. The membership is normally made of air navigation service providers, manufacturers, and equipment providers. The main purpose of the organization is to share information and develop new policies with the ultimate aim of improving air navigation services on the ground and in the air. Council also represents its members' view in major regulatory and industry forums, including at ICAO, where it has official observer status. And I might say that just like IATA representing the airlines, Council represents the air service, the air navigation service providers who normally manage the airspace. So at the same time, to assist its members in implementing ICAO policies, Council has developed several guiding materials, some of which are the Council Standard of Excellence in Safety Management Systems, Council Emergency Response Planning Guide, Airport Collaborative Decision Making Guide, the Council Guide on Air Traffic Management, Airport Collaborative Decision Making, or ATFM, ACDM, another of Council's biggest contribution to the air transport system is the World ATM Congress, nowadays known as the Airspace World, where a number of stakeholders, that is the air navigation service providers, manufacturers of air navigation service equipment, we are talking of suppliers of air navigation service equipment like radars, beacons, VOR, DME, ILS, and anything else, including even some airlines, come together to showcase their products, to conduct seminars and workshops to educate each other. It is one of the biggest events in a year in the aviation industry. Basically, some of these workshops or exhibitions, some of their main sponsors are Indra and Thales, but the many others will also come in to sponsor. Other players in the industries whom we don't have time to cover today are like the Airports Council International, ACI, the International Federation of Airline Pilots Association, IFALPA, and finally, the International Federation of Air Traffic Controllers Association, FATCA. I hope this lecture has opened your mind and given you a little bit of understanding of how the aviation world works. So I just want to thank you for watching and staying with me until the end of the lecture. Thank you and goodbye.